Hey guys, Kellen back with Inside Out Precision, and today we're going to be doing a little bit different video in the sense that we're actually responding to an Instagram follower of ours who reached out to me because he had some questions on draw length. His name's Manny1 King Fresh, so word Manny, the number 1, King Fresh is his Instagram handle. And he had watched our videos on draw length. He had also seen some of the stuff that John Dudley had talked about, but he felt like something just still wasn't quite right. So he sent me a video of him shooting, and in the process of breaking down draw length for him, I noticed there was a couple other things that he might want to address in his form that could really help improve his accuracy. So today we're going to show the video on the screen here, and then I'm going to break down some things I see that I think can really help him. Now, Manny is a classic example of somebody who got into archery but didn't have any formal coaching. So he's more or less self-taught, maybe watching some people at the local range, asking questions here or there, but really having a set of eyes who knows what to look for can be really helpful. So while again, I'm not the end all be all on archery form, but I see a lot of people shooting. I've been around some really successful archers, and there's some common themes that I see that really will improve your accuracy. So the 3 things that I'm going to address today were just his overall posture, his front grip, and his release hand. And these 3 things, when you get them combined correctly, will make for a lot more accurate point of impact downrange. So we're going to play the video on screen here. And what I want you to pay attention to is his body, the alignment of it. So he looks a little hunched like this. And then we're going to look at his release hand, where right now he's kind of just bringing that finger around and it's all one movement real fast. So we're going to fix that. And then his front hand, while the positioning of it looks pretty good, I can see that it's tense. That bow doesn't move freely in his hand after the shot. So we're going to kind of work on all those things. I'm gonna grab my bow here. This is the Traverse. Just got it today. This is actually the demo because I don't have the rest that I want to throw on mine yet. But I have this set at everything that I'm going to shoot my personal one at. So first thing that I see when I watch the video, Manny, is that you've got the basics down. While I know you had the question on your draw length, I think your draw length actually looks pretty good, but what I do see is a little bit of misalignment of the shoulders and then your overall posture. So what's really, really common, and this is what I'm kind of seeing in the videos, guys draw back and they get back and then they hunch up like this, right? So even though the draw length is correct, my head is kind of bent over, I'm leaning back a little bit. You can see how even though my shoulders are level, my torso is kind of leaning back, and my hips are pushed forward and I'm kind of riding back in the saddle. So to correct that, what we're gonna do is I want you to pick your head up over your spine, so it's gonna come back this way, and we're standing real tall. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna get those shoulders down and back. So instead of being, like this, we're gonna be boom, here. And what that's gonna do is help load your back muscles, which is gonna give you a lot better alignment and also a lot better hold. So what I want you to do is draw kind of how you normally do, or if you have any sort of rope or something you can use, set it at your draw length and use that to kind of figure this out. But I want you to draw your bow, and then right now we're kind of here, right? So your hips are kicked forward a little bit. It looks like you're kind of hunched down. That might be because it's in the basement and you don't want to get your top cam into it. But I want to take your body from here to there. So you see how my shoulders, that front shoulder shifts down, and now they're down and back instead of up and in. So down and back. So we're there. And we shoot. Now, the posture part of that is, sit that down real quick, is really, really important in especially fatigue. So if these shoulders are high and from the front it's gonna, high and in like this, two things are gonna happen. One, I'm gonna be engaging my delts, my front delts, and kind of almost my pec on the front here. And this shoulder is gonna act like a hinge. So as I aim, it's gonna wanna come up and up and up, and it's ever so slight, but that pin is gonna drop. The second thing that's gonna happen is that because I'm using these smaller muscle groups here, they're gonna fatigue a lot faster, and that bow is gonna start to feel heavier and heavier, which is just gonna compound on the fact that this shoulder comes up and in, and that pin is gonna drop even more. So by getting that shoulder from here to down and back, you can see how that my lat here, instead of being up and hunched, it's down in there. Now it's pushing that load straight back through my arm, through my shoulder, and into my back. So it's a straight line across my top and back of my shoulders, and I'll feel that in my lat. So you should kind of feel that right under your armpit and then kind of up against your rib cage where your lat connects right there. So it's here, and part of that is just standing up tall. If my head is hunched over and forward, those shoulders have to come in to get in my anchor point. Whereas if I pick up my head, as I do that, it rolls that scapula and my back here down and back, and you'll feel that brace. The same is true on the back side there. Now this is where having a draw length that's correct really comes into play, because if my draw length is too short, I'm not gonna be able to get this back shoulder down. So a lot of people come in and they raise this elbow, but to do that, they're actually picking up their shoulder here. So if they were to drop their arms, see this shoulder's all scrunched up. And a good way to tell if your shoulders are too high is if film yourself, and if after you shoot, everything comes down like this, chances are your shoulders are too high. It might be a draw length thing. You might need a little bit longer draw. It could just be that posture though. Again, if I'm hunched over and I'm leaning my head into the target like this, it's gonna look like my shoulders are real high, and it's gonna engage these muscles. Where if I'm standing up real tall, shoulders are down, even though I'm not changing my draw length, it's gonna completely change the way that bow holds and behaves. So, I'll grab that again here. So here's what the alignment's gonna look like improper. So I draw the bow, this shoulder hunches up, I'm in here like this. Now without doing anything, I'm gonna stand up tall, drop those shoulders down and back. Now you see how my rear forearm is parallel to my front hand. It's a straight line from my front hand back across the forearm to my shoulder. There's no hinge there. See, without changing the draw length, if I just bring that shoulder up and in, now you can see the shoulder is above my forearm, whereas if it's down and back in the right position, everything is just straight across. Now, I shoot a fairly straight arm, but it's not locked, right? So I'm not bent, but I'm not completely locked out. There's just a slight bend in my arm there. So, hopefully that helps a little bit with the posture and the draw length. Now, if you get in that position and your peep sight is suddenly way too low, don't scrunch your head down to see through it. Go to your local pro shop and have them cut that loose. You want to set your peep height to your head when it's in the proper position, not move my head to see through my peep sight. So it's really common that when you change your alignment and your posture like that, your anchor point and your peep height might feel a little different. That's totally fine. You want to adjust your peep height to your face, not your face to the peep height. Moving on from there, one thing I noticed was your release hand, and I know that the style of release you're using, it has that strap to hang on to, but if you haven't seen our videos on anchor point, I would suggest go checking those out. As long as you're not just death gripping the strap on that release, I think you'll be okay. But what I'd like to see is actually when you come in, rather than hanging on to that release and just kind of squeezing real fast with that finger, is if my hand is just in a completely normal, relaxed position, like my fingers are just hanging like this. Basically, I want to just insert that trigger right in front of that finger. So when I come back and I just relax my hand down, my finger comes around that trigger, and then as I tension in and start aiming, I literally am just squeezing that finger ever so slightly, and that's going to finish the shot for me. So what I'm kind of seeing on your video right now, let me find an arrow here. What I'm kind of seeing right now is you're drawing back and you're hanging on to that strap like this, and then the finger comes around and it's just kind of all one like movement like that. So you're just kind of throwing this hand afterwards. And what we want to do, running out of arrows here, what we want to do is come in, draw, head is up over the spine, those fingers all relax. So see, now my finger is just in a completely natural position there. And as I squeeze, and the shot goes off, I'm not throwing this hand back, follow through, and this backhand coming, you know, when it comes back, it needs to come back behind the ear, kind of over the collarbone. So it's not, I'm not throwing it like that, I'm not dropping it down like this, it's just gonna come tunk, straight back like that. So it's pulling straight away from that arrow. And that is a reaction to proper shot execution in terms of, you know, aiming and squeezing that trigger or building pressure on the trigger until the shot breaks versus commanding the shot. Follow through is a reaction, not a forced action. So you'll see some guys, you know, they come in and their fingers on the trigger and they boom, and they go like that. This is just, it's not doing anything. All that's doing is just causing more unnecessary movement. If you're gonna punch the trigger, you're better off just, you know, moving that finger and keeping everything still. Correct follow through, grab another arrow here. Correct follow through just comes from first having proper alignment. So that shoulder is down and back, everything's here. And as this bow arm drives that bow towards the target, and I'm not actively pushing it, it's just a brace, right? So it's a strong bow arm here. I feel it in my lap right here. And as when the back loads, so I draw, come in, this shoulder is down, and I use my rhomboid to kind of suck my scapula up against my spine there slightly. When that pressure releases, that follow through is just a natural reaction from that. So this arm should move at about a 30-degree angle, kind of down and back. And I'm not shooting and then pulling my arm like that. As I pull through the shot and the shot breaks, just the natural release of that push and that pull is going to cause that bow arm to drive slightly towards the target and this back arm to come slightly away from the target. So I'm going to show you two shots, one that's correct and then one that's usually you see when somebody's punching the trigger. So here's what we want it to look like. Okay, and then here's what we don't want it to look like. And this one you see all the time. Guys come in and they feather that trigger. This hand is kind of open and then they go like that. It's this flick of the hand. And the problem is when that hand, when you're anticipating the shot like that and you start to just pull that hand, generally it's not going to pull in the exact same direction. And it's going to pull that front arm around one way or the other. So you just get these really weird groups. So that's something to work on. And the best way to do that is set up a target at like 10 feet, completely take your sight off. And I'll get into this in another video that we're going to do, but take your sight off at the bow here. It'll go right back on. Your sight will still be accurate, but take it off right there. And just center the target in your peep sight and just work on coming in, loading that back, getting the shoulders down, and squeezing that trigger till the bow just goes off. If you have a surprise release, you're not going to be able to mess anything up before that arrow's off the bow, just based on human reaction time. If I'm truly just squeezing the trigger and aiming, squeezing and aiming, boom, the shot breaks. If you were to watch on a really high-speed camera, that arrow is like 6 or 7 feet off the bow before I even start breaking apart. Whereas if I'm commanding the shot, or if I'm anticipating the shot, you're aiming, that pin's kind of in and out. It's like, oh, it's almost there, almost there, almost there. And when you're anticipating it like that, the tendency is to start your follow through, or people will look to see where the arrow went. And generally speaking, when that happens, if I'm looking where my arrow goes, if my head comes up, my arm goes down. If my head goes right, my arm goes left. Head goes left, arm goes right. So by moving your head around to look for that arrow, your bow arm is going to get thrown in one direction or the other. So you may need to shorten your release up a little bit. Like you can see on my hand here, I mean that release when it's just resting is really, really short. I mean, barely comes to my, set this down, barely comes to where my knuckles come into my hand right there. You can see that. So again, the idea for that is that when I get back and I just relax this hand, my finger comes down around the trigger so that I'm pulling straight back on that trigger. I'm not reaching for it and flicking downward pressure, or what I call flappy, where guys come in and when they shoot, it's not that, it's back, down and back like that. So that's the second thing to work on, and something that everybody should practice. And again, do it really close up, take the pin out of the picture. When that pin isn't crossing in and out of the white, it's a lot calmer to our brains for whatever reason. It's easier to focus on the task at hand, which is basically building the muscle memory of squeezing that trigger until the bow goes off. You'll get to a point where it doesn't surprise you anymore, but you know it's gonna come, you just don't force it. And if something doesn't feel right or the pin's not in the middle, you just let down and restart. There's no shame in letting down. So we got the alignment, we got the backhand. The last thing, and this is gonna be a pretty easy fix for you, Manny, is on your front hand there. I just noticed it, though your knuckles are in a good position, I can tell that you're really squeezing that bow when it goes off. Like when you shoot, that bow can't move at all in your hand. It's just kind of rigid and tense. So think about just relaxing those fingers. When you come back, you should be able to kind of wiggle them, and they just come down and they're just resting there. And then when you shoot, that hand should just stay relaxed like that. And if you're worried about dropping your bow, you can get either a wrist sling on there, or you can get a finger sling, which is just a little piece of rope. Thought I had one back here, but I don't. It's just a little piece of rope that basically connects to your finger here and then comes around the grip on your thumb there, so that, you know, when I shoot, if I don't get a hold of that bow, it's going to hit that little rope and keep it in my hand. I'm going to go pull these arrows real quick, and then I'll be right back and I'll show you what that grip's going to look like at full draw. Okay, so went and got an arrow for you. So right now what I'm kind of seeing, try not to shoot my camera here, is that when you're shooting, though your knuckles are in a good position, I can see that you're squeezing the front of that bow, right? So that hand is tense. What you should do is just get those hands nice and relaxed. Those fingers come down and touch, but I'm not squeezing onto that bow at all. They're just there so that if I shoot completely open, the tendency is to, when I shoot, I want to grab the bow so I don't drop it. Whereas if my fingers are just touching it, you know, bows are smooth enough now, it's not going to jump out of your hand. So I just touch the front very lightly. I'm not squeezing. A good way to tell is have somebody watch you, and if your fingers start turning white when you squeeze, so like there's just resting, if you can see them turn white like that, you're squeezing the bow too hard. I still will do this in a pressure situation. If I'm really trying too hard and I'm trying to over-aim that bow, or not trying to over-aim, but if I'm over-aiming that bow, that hand tends to tense up and I'm squeezing. And then when I shoot, it's gonna want to, you know, torque just the slightest bit right or left. You can get away with quite a bit at 20 yards, but the real telltale sign is when you're out there, you know, 40 or 50 yards, if you're torquing that bow at all, you're gonna have a bunch of right-left misses, even though the pin is in the middle and the shot breaks. So, from the top real quick, I'm gonna go over the alignment, what we want the backhand to look like, and then when I shoot, I want you to just pay attention to how the bow reacts in my hand, and my hand stays nice and soft. So we're here. Good way to get that shoulder down is just right from the beginning. So I get my grip set. I'm gonna kind of, using my shoulder, push my grip down into my hand, and then bring everything out in front of me. I'm gonna draw, settle in, fingers come around the trigger, Hand is relaxed. And see, my hand is on there, but I'm not squeezing it. So that bow is gonna react in your hand a little bit. That's totally normal. The hand is a cradle, not a vice. So I don't want you to think you have to death grip that bow and keep it perfectly still after the shot. That arrow is gonna be gone before you actually see any of that movement in your hand if you watch it on a high-speed film. So I hope that helps you, Manny. If any other of you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Shoot us videos on Instagram at inside_out_precision. If you DM us, we're gonna start picking at least a person a week or every other week where we're gonna make a video just like this. And whether, don't feel ashamed if you're just a beginner and you have what you would think is a stupid question, just like they always say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Or if you've been shooting really well, but you want to, pick up those next 3 or 4 points or those next 2 or 3 X's to take you from a, like a mid-teens X shooter up to a, low to mid-20s or higher. There's a lot of little things that in this coaching stuff I've learned and can look out for, and hopefully it'll help you out. That being said, these are things that I still work on all the time. I do not have these down absolutely perfect. So when I'm practicing something, like one of these things that I was just telling you about, focus on one of them at a time. So Manny, once you get your alignment down, and the easiest way is if you have a mirror or a camera, try and get it about like this where it's eye level with you. It's really hard to tell if it's below you or above you. But get that alignment down. If you're still having issues, feel free to send me a video again if you have questions on your draw length. But just think about keeping that head up over your spine so everything's here and those shoulders are down and back. So you're here, not here. Here, not here. I think that'll help a lot. Once you get that alignment down, start focusing on that backhand. You may want to try a different style release. Generally hanging onto that strap is going to cause a little bit of tension on that release, which translates into the loop, which translates into the back of your arrow. You might need to shorten it up a little bit. You should be able to get it to where you can just kind of relax those fingers so they're touching that strap, but you're not hanging onto it. You're not using the strap to hang onto. And then again, just focus on, back of the hand is flat, finger hooks the trigger, arms are relaxed, load is in the back, and then just pull through. That hand should come back over your collarbone, this elbow shouldn't drop and the hand come back. This elbow shouldn't come down like that. It should come right there. So boom, straight away from you. That's what you want to look for. Again, it's hard without a camera or somebody watching you, so just set it up and go for it. Once you get that down, the grip is going to be a pretty easy one to change, I think. You just got to really focus on keeping that hand dead throughout the shot. And when you start getting a surprise release, you won't have any choice because the arrow's gone before you even realize what happened and you won't be able to grab the bow. So those 3 things I think will really improve your accuracy a little bit. As far as equipment goes, if you have any questions, please give me another message. I'd love to help you out. Most pro shops, like I said, if you need to get your peep sight, most likely you'll need to raise it a little bit when you fix that posture. So they'll just cut it loose. They'll take you out, they'll come to full draw, anchor how everything feels good, and then they'll move it to where you can see right through it. So again, thanks for watching, guys. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't before. Feel free to comment. And remember, precision is a decision. See you on the range.